Roland Martin Unfiltered for January 25th, 2019. The government shutdown almost over. Donald Trump caved. Nancy Pelosi won again. I'll talk with Congressional Black Caucus Chair Karen Bass of California. Also, she'll give us an update on, of course, the resignation from the CBCF by Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee over a sexual lawsuit. We have an exclusive with those kids who were on bikes in Miami who were harassed by a crazy white woman. Her boyfriend pulls a gun out on him. They will be right here, their first television interview right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live from Miami. Also in upstate New York, 4 12-year-old black girls suspected of being on drugs taken to the office and strip search at the age of 12. We'll share more of the shocking details and the response from their parents. Also, the clock is ticking for North Carolina's Bennett College. They must raise $5 million by the 1st of February or lose their accreditation. Right here, we'll be joined by the president of Bennett to give us a progress report on their fundraising. Also, Roger Stone arrested this morning in Florida, longtime Trump associate and a straight-up racist and a thug. That's right, taken into custody by the FBI. Ooh, y'all don't want to miss what I got to say about that. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, Donald Trump, after getting his butt kicked over the last several weeks, caved today, announcing that the government shutdown is going to come to an end. That there is going to be a 3-week continuing resolution to fund the government. Now, of course, remember, it was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi who told him point blank, you are not giving a State of the Union speech unless you reopen the government. Also, today in New York, we found out, as a result of air traffic controllers calling in sick, grounded flights to a halt in New York and other places. Folks knew in the White House this was going to happen all across the country if this thing continued. As a result, leaders on the Republican and Democratic side got together today with the White House, and they made perfectly clear there was a deal. Now, let's keep in mind, the House and the Senate have not yet voted on this deal. He could always change his mind. But as of right now, unless Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity act a complete fool, the deal is very simple. They will have a continuing resolution, fund the federal government for the next 3 weeks, allow both sides to negotiate on border security. But the reality is this: Donald Trump did not get a dime for his wall by reopening the government. Earlier, I talked with Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, who is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Here's our conversation. All right, Congresswoman Bass, let's just cut to the chase. This shutdown has been utterly stupid. We now have a deal
Yes.
that is virtually the same deal.
That's right.
Before there was even a shutdown.
That's
Senate
right.
passed a resolution 100-0.
Right.
The House could have taken it up.
Right.
It's the same deal.
Exactly. Exactly. But what's happened in the interim, I guess, has been a civics lesson for the president, who didn't seem to understand the powers he had and didn't have. Just like with the State of the Union. He thought that he could just march onto the floor of the House of Representatives and didn't understand that when Nancy Pelosi said you couldn't, that's, obviously the power that she has.
I think that's why there's a deal.
Exactly.
No, seriously. I think
Right.
the reason there's a deal is because he is so narcissistic and is all about big audiences that, oh, wait a minute, hold up. There was no walkthrough on Monday.
Right.
There's not going to be a speech. Oh man, no. So let's do a 3-week deal so I can get my speech on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is.
Well, there was one other factor that happened this morning,
Yep.
and that was the folks at the airport that all called in sick, and air traffic was blocked in New York and several other cities. That was ominous, and it was interesting because Congresswoman Lucy McBath in our caucus
Georgia.
yesterday, she mentioned that she had met with a number of the airline workers, and they were saying that they weren't going to be able to go into work. You remember they told them to go drive Uber or to do garage sales. If people aren't bringing money in, they have to figure out a way to do it. Some of the workers might not have even had gas money, because you are talking about people who are very low-paid workers, whether
Right.
you were talking about TSA or otherwise. So I think that, along with the straw, that being the straw that broke the camel's back, couldn't get his speech on Tuesday, and then also the air traffic being blocked.
And I think that, because first of all, we had talked about this on this show yesterday. And I said, folks, if the airport people say, ain't nobody flying,
Exactly.
I said, this country will look like 9/11,
Exactly, that's
where
right.
there were no planes in the air.
I just hope that the workers recognize their power, because it's not over. This is just extended for 3 weeks. And what he's going to find, just like the last deal he agreed to, he got beat up by the right wing, Ann Coulter, Rush Limbaugh, I guess who he listens to more so than his cabinet. They got mad at him when he made the last deal. They got mad at him when he made a speech. I know they're going to beat him up today. He's the one who said that he could go into Times Square, shoot somebody, and everybody would still love him. But yet when Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh spanked him, he then runs away from the deal. I frankly hope that we vote either by unanimous consent or everybody comes back to D.C. immediately, because he's liable to change his mind again.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. And that's why one of the first questions that I asked my staff was, all right, when is this vote?
Right.
No, literally, when I came in, I said, is Congresswoman Bass still coming in?
Yeah.
I said, because are they voting in an hour? Because the reality is,
Exactly.
let's go back to December.
Right.
Vice President Pence tells the Senate, yes, pass this deal,
Right.
and Trump is going to sign it.
Right.
The Senate passes this, unanimous consent, 100-0. Then by the next morning, he tells Paul Ryan, oh, hell no, absolutely not. I'm not going to sign it. I need a wall.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, Paul Ryan comes out and says, hey, he wants a wall, so we got to pass a different bill.
But to show you how ridiculous it is, I don't know if you saw his speech, Roland, but he talked about a steel wall that you could see through. I didn't know you could see through steel. But that's what he said. But just think about this for a minute. Republicans have always been the party that opposed eminent domain. Well, how do you think the wall would be built? That's not just free property there. You're talking about the property of ranchers. You're talking about Native American reservations. And eminent domain would be tied up in court.
And the only member of Congress where 42% of his congressional district is that border,
right,
is Republican
is
Will Hurd.
That's right.
Who has said this is a myth. This is nonsense. This wall should not be built.
Well, when he went to the border, when Trump went to the border, all of the Border Patrol people sat there and did a presentation to him about tunnels. So you can build whatever wall you want. What about the tunnels? And if you're worried about the drugs that come in, the drugs come in through the ports of entry in trucks. The people who are half starving from Central America aren't bringing in, major drug trafficking. So it's ports of entry that the drugs are coming in. The whole thing was a farce. Some of my colleagues called it a vanity wall. I think that's absolutely the case. It never made any sense. But he's still threatening us, because what he said is that he's going to give us 15 days to negotiate his wall. And if in 15 days we don't give him the money, then he's going to use his emergency powers. Well, go right ahead, President Trump, and do that. Because the minute you pull the trigger on the emergency powers, you're going to be tied up in court.
Well, he's not necessarily won in court a lot, especially over the last couple of years. I got to ask you this here. All of a sudden, we're seeing candidates jump into the race.
Yes.
Senator Kamala Harris jumped in on Monday.
Yep.
You have the governor out of Indiana. He is forming an exploratory committee.
Oh.
You have Senator Bernie Sanders, who hasn't jumped in, but he's sort of quasi-running and all sorts of different stuff. What is your message to these candidates? What do you want to hear them talk about specifically for black folks?
Well, first of all, I'm not dismayed by the fact that there are, a lot of candidates in the race. I think the Democratic Party and the American people need to have that discussion. But in terms of African Americans, I want to hear specificity. I mean, you're talking about an administration right now who has from day one tried to reverse everything we've won over the last 6 or 7 decades. I want to know how we're going to put it back together again. And not just put it back together, but move us a step forward. Let me give you a very specific example. We need infrastructure. We need major transportation projects. So we eventually, let's say we pass a bill under the next administration. Well, how are you going to target that so that African Americans actually get the jobs and the training, et cetera? So passing major pieces of legislation like that without specificity for how it's going to help our community can bypass us. We've seen this happen all the time.
Well, what this administration has already done is that they have also went back to bundling contracts that makes it harder for a smaller firm to be able to compete for the prime contract. And so then there only are subcontractors and only major firms can get those. And so that's how, and so I tell people all the time what Maynard Jackson did in Atlanta when he broke apart the large contracts, broke them into smaller prime contracts so black contractors could then be able to apply for those prime contracts, get them, and then control larger share of the dollars as opposed to just being a sub.
Well, and in addition to that, the other thing the administration did is took away provisions for local hire for federal transportation dollars. So believe it or not, if you have money from the federal government for a transportation project and you as a city or a county want to give preferential treatment to people who live in the neighborhood that the project is coming to, you can't do that. It is, but that's one of the ways, because we know that affirmative action has been gutted, right? I mean, we should have had that back, with goals. But given that we don't have that back right now, if you put in local hire provisions, you do have a much greater chance and opportunity for African Americans who look out of the window, drive down their street, see major projects, and no African Americans on the workplace. So those are things that could be done and that I would like to see the next administration do.
We do want to get your thoughts on this. GQ dropped their article with Bernie Sanders. It was done in October. In the article, he talked about where he said race is obviously a huge issue, but he thinks that class is a larger issue. How can you divorce race from class?
Well, let me just tell you, if that is your viewpoint, then basically what you will say is you will turn a blind eye to institutional racism. If you don't have the ability to understand that in the United States, 243 years, why do we still have the inequity? We have the inequity because of institutional racism. So it is alarming to me that Senator Sanders would still say that. And maybe that's why in King Day a week ago, now he's beginning to talk about race. If in the United States you do not talk about race, then you are essentially giving a blind eye and you are complicit to institutional racism.
All right. Last question. We saw one of your members step down from the CBC Foundation and also from a couple of committees as a result of a lawsuit. For the folks who don't know, the CBC Foundation is a separate entity.
4 separate organizations.
So it's CBC Foundation, CBC Institute,
CBC
PAC,
Political Action Committee.
and then you have the CBC.
The CBC, right.
But there are CBC members who are chair of the CBC. So you still have a relationship there.
Yes, we definitely have a relationship, but it's important to note that they are 4 completely separate legal entities.
Gotcha. And so with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee stepping down from the CBCF, she's still a member of the House.
Oh, absolutely. A very important member of the Congressional Black Caucus, absolutely. And she stepped down from the foundation. Yes.
And have y'all given them any thoughts or perspective or direction on that suit in terms of governance?
Not in terms of the suit, but what the CBC Foundation is doing is there will be a temporary chair, and there's an election for a permanent chair that will be coming up in another month.
Okay. All right. Congresswoman Carabas, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, folks, let's talk about it with our panel. Joining me is Malik Boyd, CEO, Dushuri CBD Products. We also have on the show Long Victoria Burke, National Newspaper Publishers Association. Also, Joe Madison, host Sirius XM Radio, and Derek Holly, host of Reaching America on-demand podcast. Okay, so Derek, I'm gonna start with you.
Of course you are.
I can start with Malik.
Hey, bring it on.
Malik, ain't you Republican, conservative, all that thing?
Yeah.
I can pick, but I'm gonna go ahead and start with you, Derek.
All
go.
right.
Donald Trump got straight pimp slapped by Nancy Pelosi.
No, I don't agree with that.
Malik, Donald Trump got straight pimp slapped by Nancy
I don't agree
Pelosi.
with that.
Yes or no?
You want me to go? You want me to? You want me
Go
to take-
ahead, Derek.
I just don't think so, man. At the end of the day, the American people were the ones who got pimp slapped and lost in all of this. The 800,000 federal workers. And so I think after seeing what happened today, Nancy Pelosi has softened her approach a bit, as did the president.
Hold up. Malik, go ahead.
All right, so
I don't know if you saw the news, but I did.
No, I saw the news.
And she looked like she had softened her approach a
No,
little bit.
what Nancy Pelosi had a
And
smug
the-
look
and
like.
the president.
Here's what we know.
yeah.
The one who's acting like a jerk still is Schumer.
No. Here's what we know. Donald Trump came out and announced a 3-week continuing resolution, got no wall funding. This is the exact same thing the United States Senate voted on 100-0 before there was a shutdown. The same thing.
I'll agree with you. So, all right, I'll go down your lane. But first, yes, the American people lost in this whole thing.
Yes.
All right. But now let's do the narrative. Donald Trump could have used a true minority advisor in his space because they would have told him what you don't do is disrespect Big Mama at the family reunion. And what he told her was, build me a wall, and I'm going to use the company credit card or a family credit card, and I want that all around the garden. And if I don't, then nobody else is getting food off the grill. And Big Mama said, not only did you threaten me, but you challenged me in front of Uncle Chuck, and now I'm going to embarrass you. And so, Trump did get a smackdown. We got to be honest about it. He really did. It didn't get a wall, didn't get any dollars. And more importantly, he had to come back and go, you know what? The Super Bowl's coming up, all of these major events.
Right.
America is now in survival mode. So even if you were on his side, when it's time for me to survive and take care of my family, game changing.
Lauren, he got no wall money. He got no State of the Union speech. He thought, I'm the president. I can roll up in the house, do what I want to do. And she's like, let me remind you, I run this.
Yeah,
We got to pass a resolution just to allow you to give your speech. And then what happened today with the air traffic controllers?
Yeah.
When flights start getting grounded,
That's when.
then because I'm telling you what was going to happen tomorrow. Joe Madison called for it on his show, saying TSA workers, day after the Super Bowl, don't show up. Lauren, Donald Trump got embarrassed, and now he had no choice but to do this.
He did get something out of it. He got the lowest approval rating in 72 years, right? So he got that. He got a 37% approval, or really disapproval rating, the lowest in over 70 years. So that's that. I don't think he cares about the air traffic controllers. The only thing Donald Trump cares about is Donald Trump. So once we saw the State of the Union get taken away, once he sees his approval ratings go down 3 times in over 34 days, just ticking downward, the whole thing sort of blamed on him, that's what he cares about. He doesn't care about anything else. He doesn't care about the paychecks of 800,000 people. All that's nonsense.
I mean, in fact, y'all, go ahead and play this. I got to play this. Y'all, cue it up, please. This unbelievably idiotic, stupid, asinine, dumb-ass comment he made yesterday as if we still have neighborhood grocery stores from 60 years ago.
Mr. President, you see Wilbur Ross said that he doesn't understand why federal workers would need help getting food. Can you understand?
No, I haven't heard the statement, but I do understand. Perhaps you should have said it differently. Local people know who they are when they go for groceries and everything else. And I think what Wilbur was probably trying to say is that they will work along. I know banks are working along. If you have mortgages, the mortgagees, the folks collecting the interest and all of those things, they work along. And that's what happens in time like this. They know the people. They've been dealing with them for years, and they work along. The grocery store. And I think that's probably what Wilbur Ross meant. But I haven't seen his statement, no. But he's done a great job, I will tell you that.
No idea what he's talking about.
Joe,
No, he does. He does. He knows exactly what he's talking about.
Joe, go ahead. Joe, I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, and that was a grocery store called Middleton's that was in Galena Park. And I remember you would go to Middleton's and you might be able to buy grocery stores on credit. Middleton's don't exist no more.
You know, you remind me.
Go ahead.
When I was growing up, we had a grocery store, Rosie's. And Rosie's would give you credit, you know, your next paycheck. And then when I thought about that, I said, he must be thinking about a company store, you know, that you hear about in the coal mine era. But look, let's understand. You mentioned the fact I went on the air, and I said, look, we're not going to even think about boycotting or interfering with the Super Bowl. That's crazy. Right. But they got to get out. They got to get out. 120 to 130,000 people have got to get out. So my argument and my proposal was right after the King Day, because I said, look, if you're going to celebrate the man, you got to live the message.
Right.
So what you do, TSA, let's target Atlanta, and you have a sick out, not a strike, a sick out. And let me tell you, that's what started it, to be quite candid, because only 2 or 3 days ago, the mayor of Atlanta came on, had a news conference and said, I've got to do something. I've got to get these people out. And then you have 14,000 IRS folks who didn't show up. And then today, the news about the East Coast flights. Right. And that impact everybody. All right, I'm going to just say one more thing. So let's understand. His problem now is going to be Ann Coulter, Rush Limbaugh, and
Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham,
and Laura Ingraham, because they are pissed. They are pissed. But here's what he's going to do. Mark my words. Save this video. He's going to. First off, they got to get you through the Super Bowl.
Right.
Through this period. He's going to then, I guarantee you, declare a state of emergency. And the reality is, and most lawyers have said this, it won't be worth the paper it's written on.
Because the moment he declares it, they're going to go to the courts. The courts are going to issue an immediate injunction, and he's going to stand looking like this here.
But no, what he's going to say, I tried. I tried to get this open. I opened it up.
And it's those liberal courts.
And that's what it's going to be.
What we're going to find out. We're going to find out.
It looks like he wins, though.
No, he doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Wait a minute.
He wanted the money for the border wall.
Yeah.
He didn't get the money for the border wall. That's it. It wasn't about the air traffic controllers.
No.
It was about the jailbreak that almost happened last night in the U.S. Senate. Watch the reporting. It's about the fact that Republican U.S. senators almost jailbreaked on him. That's about him. Yeah. That's about his ego.
More Republicans went with the Democratic cause
of flying or people getting planes.
But those Republicans with the jailbreak, they do. And so, again, this is where.
But it's all about his ego.
No, I understand that. But
his ego drives these decisions.
What I'm saying, though, is if you're Republican senators, you're getting pressure from constituents and from mayors and from governors. And so you sitting there going, look, man, we trying to roll with you, but I got to run, too.
But here's the bigger reason why. That statement that you just replayed was a class privilege statement.
Oh, purely.
Right? So yes, that
rich
was
white man who ain't never walked to a grocery store in his damn life.
But I can go to the bank even on bad credit and still get a loan.
Well, what's
the same things that minorities can.
Well, even though the banks in America wouldn't give him money, so that's why he went to the Russians.
But Wilbur.
I
mean, look at the asinine comment that he made.
Right. Well, his comment was in response to the question about Wilbur.
Exactly. And let me point this out. Wilbur's credit union charges 9% interest on emergency loans.
Right. Dude, the other thing you have to understand, too, is that we had that Roger Stone story today. He wanted to step on that. I suspect.
Of course he did.
That his media strategy is always to divert to something else. So you have the big announcement in the Rose Garden on the same day that Roger Stone gets raided. You know, that's the other piece. It's all about him all the time with every decision.
But here's the deal, though. It's going to drive him crazy because the next 24 hours, because he's going to be watching TV all day and all weekend.
Right.
And all it's going to be is you got Punk. You lost. Pelosi's the boss. Pelosi wears the pants in America. And it's going to drive him crazy. Yeah. And the problem is, this fool may go back on this agreement. He is so narcissistic, he may try that on Monday. So they better do it.
They passed passed the UC in the Senate already. See, all they have to do is pass 2 unanimous consent.
Right, but my point is,
It
it
will-
ain't happened yet. But the way this fool is,
It'll
he
happen.
may try to go back and say, "Hell, I won't even sign that."
Well, then, yeah, well,
All right, y'all. Let's.
he's through.
Well, we'll see.
No, not yet, not yet.
We'll see what Crazy Man does next.
Yeah.
Yesterday, folks, we told you about Papa John's Pizza pledging $500,000 to Bennett College in North Carolina. This is crucial because Bennett is under academic probation and could lose their accreditation by February 1st if they do not raise $5 million. Also, today, Alpha Phi Alpha, my fraternity, gave $31,000 to Bennett College as a result. Derek, is your frat giving anything?
I don't know.
Okay, you might want to text
I will.
somebody.
I'll let you know.
What was that little group you? What's that little group you a member of?
You got this.
I can't remember that little
I'll
group.
back to you on it.
I can't remember that little
You know what
group.
it is.
Which one is he
It's from
talking
Vegas High Five.
Oh yeah, that's a little group.
Okay, yeah.
That's right. Y'all can rustle up at least 5,000. Joining us right now is the president of Bennett College, Dr. Phyllis Dawkins. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
I see you there with your Stand with Bennett shirt. First and foremost, before we get to in terms of where you are with the fundraising, how did Bennett even get to this point to where you have less than 2 weeks to raise this money to save Bennett? How did we get to this point?
Well, on December 11th of 2018, after defending Bennett to our accrediting body, SAC, we were told at the end of that conference that we would be removed from membership in SAC. And so we were surprised because we had a good year last year. We ended the year with a surplus, a clean audit. In fact, we've had 5 years of clean audits. We ended the year with an increase in enrollment by 16%. We also had an increase in retention by 9%. We went from 44% last year to 53% this year. And so we had a good year last year. But they looked at us over a period of time, over the last 11 years, looking at what we call our UNAP score, unrestricted net asset score, and that calculation score was high. And so to that extent, they declared that that we were financially not stable. And so we have until February 1st to impact that calculation and bring down that score to zero. Hence why we need $5 million by February 1st.
And where do you stand right now? How much have you raised thus far? You've had celebrities, of course, going on social media, using the hashtag Stand with Bennett. You've had other folks raising money. We talked about the Papa John's donation of $500,000, Alpha Phi Alpha, their donation. Other groups have been donating. So where do you stand now?
Yes, as of today, we're close to $3 million. Now, we had a good day yesterday. We had the Papa John's donation of $500,000 in the morning. In the evening, we had Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. They also gave us $500,000. And throughout the day, today, we've had ministers, pastors, or organizations dropping off checks all day long, as well as our online donations are up since December the 11th.
I have first of all, one of the reasons why I created the hashtag HBCU Giving Day is because when I had the president of the Florida A&M alumni group on the show, he talked about FAMU alumni only giving 5%, only 5% of their graduates giving. When I met with the Wilberforce former president, when he got there, they were getting 1% of their alumni was giving was up to 9%. The Howard University president he's been on, when he got there, undergraduate giving was 3.7%. Now it's up to 10%. For Bennett, what is the percentage of your alumni giving back to the university?
Our percentage is high. As you know, the national giving in terms of the percent of alumni that give at historically black colleges is between 10 and 12%. At Bennett College, we have remained in the top 3 in terms of the top 3 of 101 accredited HBCUs that give. Our alumni give between 40 and 50%. That's pretty high. So we are very proud of our alumni giving.
But so what do you do, though, to let's say you do hit that $5 million, because I remember when Dr. Julianne Malveaux, when she was president, Bennett College, I always had a radio show on WVON in Chicago. I got this emergency text from her saying, we're trying to keep some young women in college. We've got to get $30,000. I've had those other calls before. And so what is it going to require to stabilize Bennett, so you're not in this mad rush, this mad dash for cash to save the university?
Yes, Roland, we can't go through this again. This has been a tremendous project, and we are proud of all the people that have given to Bennett, including the AKAs, the Deltas, the Alphas. We're waiting on the Omegas to give. Okay?
All right, Derek, what's going on? You got the president of Bennett sitting right there saying the Omegas haven't done anything. Tom Joyner, Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, all three of y'all Omegas. What the hell is up?
Oh, man.
Yeah, they are planning. We've heard from them. We know they plan to give, and so we're waiting on them to move forward. And
Yeah, they normally late. I got you, Dr. Dawkins. I got you.
Okay, and Ricky did pledge $1,000. Okay, so we're proud of the pledge. But what we can't do, we cannot be here again. So we're trying to raise a minimum of $5 million. We hope to supersede that. It would be great if we double that. That's the minimum we need to support our appeal, to ensure that we are accredited now and into the future. We are accredited currently. We're accredited by SACS. At the same time, we are seeking another accreditation through another organization called TRACS. So I just want to make it clear, especially to all the students that have applied to Bennett for the fall 19, we have over 4,000 applications. And so to those students intending to enroll in Bennett College, we are accredited and we will remain accredited.
So what if you don't raise the $5 million by February 1st? What then happens? Because I've seen other reports saying Bennett will close its doors. So what happens if you don't have $5 million by February 1st?
Let me restart that. We will have $5 million by February 1st. We will get that money. Then we go before the SACS accrediting body on February 18th. We will be successful with our appeal. But if we are not successful by whatever may happen, if we are not successful, then we will enter into a lawsuit, and we also will maintain our accreditation.
Got it.
In the meantime, in February, at the same time we are trying to defend ourselves, we will also seek accreditation in another group called TRACS.
All right, then. Well, Dr. Dawkins, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Give the website where folks can give. Bennett will be our HBCU giving day for this day. What's the website where people can give?
Just like Alphas, I want you to give to www.bennett.edu and look for the Stand With Bennett campaign. But if you just go to our site, or you can give through our Cash App, Stand With Bennett, our Cash App, or you can give by texting to give. You can text the word BELLS with capital letters BELLES to 444-999. And if you're my age or older, many people still like to write the checks or to donate online. And so there are many different ways that you can give to Bennett College.
All right, Dr. Phyllis Dawkins, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us. All right, Omegas, hurry the hell up and get your checks in and stop being late like your asses normally are. All right, y'all, we told you about this story that took place Monday on MLK Day. 4 black teenagers were riding their bikes as part of a protest. And all of a sudden, a crazy-ass white woman claimed one of them ran over her foot. Now, mind you, she was supposed to have ass in her car. She decided to get out of her car and accost these young folks. Then claims one of them ran over her foot. Then all of a sudden, her boyfriend, crazy white boy, he jumps out his car with his gun, yelling the N-word at these black teenagers. joining us. So first of all, before I go to them, again, here's a video. That event that was shot by the gentleman who was leading that protest. We had him on the show, but here was the video so y'all can understand what we're about to talk about with the teenagers. This is an exclusive interview with us. They would talk to anybody else. So roll the tape.
Get in front of my car, you fucking piece of shit. Nigger, stop! Nigger, stop! Nigger, stop!
She's so violent.
I ain't touch you.
You just ran over me! You just ran over my butt! You're tired! No, you're not! You're right here! You ran over my butt!
Don't touch me, bro.
Don't touch me, you bunch of thugs! Fuck you, bitch!
Fucking white ass.
Get the whoa!
Get the who did?
That guy in the red! Yeah, right behind this guy! You ran over
Fuck out of
my
here,
butt!
fucking piece of shit! You fucking losers!
You ran over my foot!
You fucking stupid niggas!
You guys, keep moving!
Fucking dumbass fucking niggas!
And this guy right
Go.
now.
I'll be on the news! Y'all gonna make the news!
That's fine.
All right! Hey, fucking idiots! Y'all stupid niggas! Listen, you stupid niggers! Put that gun to my head, stupid bitch!
All right, folks. Now, the man in the video, Mark Bartley, was arrested, and his girlfriend, Dana Scallion, was fired from her job. Joining us right now, this exclusive interview of 4 of the kids involved in the event and their attorneys, Marvin Porter and Lee Merritt. First of all, I don't have the names of the 4 kids, so if you could go ahead if you want. Go if you can't. Introduce yourselves, please.
Donis Cruz.
Octavia Simonette. Jaylee Flores.
And this is Marwan Porter with the Cochran firm.
All right, so first off, to the young folks, so explain to us, before this happened, what were you doing in downtown Miami on your bikes? Explain for the audience what you were doing.
We're protesting for fair housing because they want to take our low-income housing and make them private.
And when did y'all decide to be a part of this protest?
2 weeks ago.
And so how many other folks were on bikes? Were the people who were walking, or was everyone during the protest, were they on bicycles?
Bicycle.
What I understand is, I'm sorry, am I?
Actually, one of you go ahead, then Lee Merritt, hold on one second. Go ahead. So everyone was on bicycles?
Yes.
Okay, Lee Merritt, one of the other attorneys, go ahead.
I just wanted to give a little context. There was over 200 participants on bikes that day. This is a major day in Miami. Every MLK day, they have an adult sort of ride out called Wheels Up, Guns Down, which is an anti-gun event. And these young people wanted to be a part of that and advocate for something that they were concerned about in their community. So led by Dwight Williams, who I believe may be president, is one of the organizers there in Miami. They had a program called Bikes Up, Guns Down, where they protested on behalf of both gun violence and how this is a huge event every year on MLK Day.
So for the 4 of you, you were there. You're on your bicycles, and then what then happens? What was traffic being blocked? What was going on that caused this woman to get out of her car and approach you?
Nothing. We were just blocking traffic, and then she got mad out of her vehicle and she walked to the front where we was at and started yelling at us.
So what y'all were doing? So were y'all were stopping traffic, or were y'all crossing the street?
We were stopping traffic.
And so then all of a sudden she gets out of her car, and she then claims that someone ran over her foot with a bicycle. Did that actually happen?
No.
And so, well, obviously, y'all all in unison on that one.
Adonis, he actually will be able to kind of tell you what happened because he's the one who was kind of popping with. So why don't you tell him, Adonis, what happened?
Nothing. I was popping the wheelie. I was minding my own business while the other kid was talking to the lady about his bike. Then I popped my wheelie and I heard somebody called my name. And before I knew it, I turned around, I pressed the brakes, and I hit the ground. And she said I hit her feet. but I hit actually behind the kid's feet without touching the lady. And then she got mad and pushed my bike and hit me with my bike and started yelling. So me and her started fussing back and forth.
How much time went by as she was verbally yelling at all of you? What, 2 or 3 minutes? Was it 5, 10 minutes? How much time did all this take place?
Like a good 4 or 5 minutes.
And then all of a sudden, while she is yelling, she's cursing, then her boyfriend comes up. And how did y'all feel when all of a sudden you see him with a gun in his right hand?
I felt terrified.
I felt scared.
I felt shocked.
Why don't you tell them a little bit, kind of, because I think Jalise kind of saw him coming up with the gun. So why don't you tell them what happened?
He was running with the gun, and he ran to the lady, and the lady told him who it was, and they pointed at him. So that's when he goes up to he goes up to him, and while he goes up to him, I'm standing behind him just looking at the gun.
And so then all of a sudden, he starts calling y'all the N-word.
Yes.
And so while he has his gun, he's yelling the N-word. Other folks in their cars, did anybody try to get out? I mean, because obviously he's walking up to you. You're scared to death. What was going on? Because we see all of you in the video. Did any of you say, you know what, we need to bug out, we need to get out of here, run away? Just take me through all those things, all your emotions, what was happening at that time.
Once you get honest, I know you kind of froze at the time, huh?
Yeah. When he came up with a gun, when I didn't see it, when he was running, and when he got next to his wife, and then when I seen the gun, I got so scared that I didn't want to run. I stood there looking at him, and when he got up to me, I thought he was going to do something to me with the gun, so I didn't move. I froze, got scared. And when he told me, get away from here, niggers, I just froze there and just stood. Didn't want to run.
And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was terrified, and I ran.
We saw the video end. How did this end? Did police arrive? So take me through that. What happened when the video stopped? What happened after that?
There were police going way in front of us, and that's when everybody thought it was for us, like we did something wrong. But the man, he was getting arrested, and the lady, she had her hands up.
So when someone said, hey, you're going to be on television, and they're sitting here accosting you, cops come on the scene, the four of you, you're thinking the cops are there to deal with you. Then all of a sudden, they came on. So at any point, did the cops try to detain any one of you, or were they solely focused on this man who was carrying this gun?
They were focused on the man.
And as he's getting arrested, what is he saying to the cops? Is he still talking trash to y'all? What's happening?
No.
I think he actually said something to the effect of, why are you arresting me? They're the ones who were in the streets.
This took place 4 days ago. We have seen tons of interviews of these white kids from Kentucky who made news over the weekend. Does it make the four of you, does it anger you that national media has talked to all of these kids, has gone to their school, all of this attention, apparently they're getting invited to the White House, yet they've ignored your story. They've ignored what took place in this case.
Yeah, they're a little, shocked by it. For those of you that, don't know, Miami-Dade County is a very real place, and these kids were out there trying to do something positive. People get killed, in Miami every day, and they've started an effort, bikes up, guns down. And it was a positive effort, and ironically, the same thing that they were advocating against is what, they were the victims of. And we definitely think that national news, should pick this up because these kids are positive. They could be, in the streets doing a whole lot of different things, but they choose to ride their bikes, and have fun and be kids. And this is what they get. So they're definitely disappointed that national news hasn't picked it up, especially because it's a positive effort. And hopefully after you, Roland, they'll get on board.
Well, trust me, it won't be the first time they've gotten on board after we did something on one of my shows. Final question for the four of you. The man has been arrested. The woman, she's lost her job. What do y'all want to see happen next?
Well, one thing, and probably Lee Merritt has the ability to kind of go into it a little bit more.
I think we've lost Lee's Skype. They're going to let me know, but go ahead.
Okay, well, we're asking for enhancement, of the charges. They gave him, a charge of, I believe, carrying a weapon without a license. But that's just the bottom, crime that he is guilty of. We are asking for him to be charged, and her as well, with assault, battery, and potentially some hate crimes. In addition, again, the Cochran firm has stood up for civil rights for a very, very long time. Whether it's race-based, gender-based, whatever it may be, we want injustices to be corrected. So civilly, we are going to go after both of them and make them understand that, they cannot be going around, waving guns in little black kids and Hispanic kids' face, calling them niggers without there being consequences. So we're going to make sure that they answer, to the situation and that they pay for it, figuratively and literally.
To the four young folks, has this caused you to be afraid to protest in the future?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as a result of this, your intentions were to protest housing there. And so because of what took place here, you're going to have second thoughts before you decide to be involved in a future protest.
Yes.
Yeah, Roland, and fortunately, I think when we all watched the video the first time, I was just cringing, hoping that one of these kids did not get shot. Now, if you looked at one of the earlier videos, he was attempting to bait them into a bad situation, and this could have turned out much differently. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's a much bigger lesson in this. These individuals were expressing, their constitutional rights of freedom of speech. And what message are we sending to our youth? That if you have a philosophy or an idea that you want to express, and if someone doesn't agree with it, you can pay for it with your life. And, it seems like we're going back in time, and we cannot let that happen.
All right, then. We certainly appreciate all of you joining us. I don't speak for other media outlets. It is a shame that when these stories happen, national media pretty much ignores them. Do understand when Trayvon Martin was killed, it was folks like me and others who drove social media to get national media to pay attention to this, and they should be covering this. This is also why we created this platform, so we don't have to ask or beg somebody else to tell our story. We do it ourselves. But I will say this here to the four of you, and that is I totally understand you being afraid of somebody getting out of a car with a gun. I've had to face being a kid and someone having a gun in my face, and it is absolutely scary. But what you also know is that in our history, black folks have always had to protest, have always had to agitate. When I think about the black kids who were in Birmingham, who walked into harm's way when they sicked dogs and fire hoses on them, and all they were fighting was to be treated like Americans. We celebrate them today for being those foot soldiers. And so although it was traumatic for you, what you endured on Monday, do understand, all four of you and the others there were doing the absolute right thing to protest housing in Miami. You were doing the right thing to put yourselves on the line. And I would hope that you not give up in the future in doing so, that you be willing to say you're going to be emboldened and you're not going to let any crazy white man or some crazy white woman stop you from demanding your full rights as an American. So good luck to all of you, and I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, Roland.
Thanks a lot. I want to go to our panel here before I go to a break to my next story. I mean, this is, you talk about this story. I keep going over this over again. You got white folks in this country who have so much white privilege that they believe they can do whatever the hell they want, anytime they want. And if they see some black folks as if, oh, we're still back in the 1700s and the 1800s where you're going to obey whatever we do.
Track record was clear. I mean, black folk are endangered, right? And white folks' privilege has taken over, and they've been able to go beyond the limits. This guy, there's a couple things here. This guy, you can tell he can't hold his hands because no grown man is going to step to kids with a weapon. That's the first thing, right? So clearly there's a button that wasn't pushed in the brain. But you have the assault from the woman to begin with. Then here's the challenge. Concealed carry is if it's concealed. He brandished the weapon.
Oh, no.
So at this point, we're talking about
this was no different. This was no different than the other white man in Florida when the black kids were getting to the elevator. Then all of a sudden, his gun appears, and then later he says, "Oh, I didn't mean to pull it out." No. You knew exactly what you were doing by pulling your gun out. You were trying to say, I'm going to use this on y'all if you don't back up.
And because he walked to the event, it's clear that there was a premeditation.
He got out his car and walked up to them. Derek, go ahead.
The biggest thing I heard was this gun was unregistered. And so had that been a brother, he was going down right there. Maybe even got shot.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the white privilege.
You wonder if stand your ground would have been applied had one of these kids had a weapon and stepped to this guy that approaches them. But, you know, just like in Florida with the
first of all, according to that law, if all of a sudden, if somebody steps to you and you're in fear of your life, you have the right to stand your ground. Yeah.
And they should have been in fear of their life. But what's even more amazing than the whole premise and idiocy of getting out of your car and approaching people on the roadway, all of that, is you know this is being recorded. You know that.
And they go, we don't care.
This will be viral.
No, but that's the white privilege. I don't care if you record it.
Well, see,
no different than a white man in Pennsylvania, I think, who said, I need to see your key fob to get into the pool. No different than a white man in Ohio who owned the business, and he yelled nigga, nigga, nigga at the guy and was like, I don't care if you say something. Then it's like, oh my God, my life has been ruined. I've lost my business. Because your dumb ass.
Now the interesting change, though, is there's some consequence here. Just like we showed the people in Charlottesville without their hoods.
Right.
You know, there was the consequence of you're losing your job now. That's a little bit of a new piece.
And I'm cool with that, Joe.
In America, we are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior and black is inferior. The manifestation of that cultural conditioning is that black people are undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. And you saw all three of that in that one clip. Let me tell you what comes to my mind. You know what? Birth of a Nation. In Birth of a Nation, what was the theme of Birth of a Nation? A white woman is threatened, and here comes the Ku Klux Klan. That's part of the cultural conditioning of America.
White woman in Mississippi, Emmett Till.
Everything, this is everything all of you have said is absolutely true. But let me tell you, it has been going on because it's part of the cultural conditioning of the United States of America. This is Emmett Till, this is Birth of a Nation, this is the Scottsboro Brothers. This is just cultural conditioning.
And then when you talk about that cultural conditioning, one of the reasons why Luther Campbell, everybody know him from Uncle Luke, and of course people may talk about his music, but you might want to read his book, because in his book he actually talked about the issue of housing there in Miami. He talks about where the current arena is for the Miami Heat. All of that was land that black folks had owned. And that it was black folks, it was African Americans, but also Bahamians who built Miami. And they systematically moved all those black folks to what is present-day Liberty City. and isolated them in that area and literally stole land and moved black folks out. So when you talk about them fighting about housing in Miami, that ain't a current thing. That's a historical thing when you talk about what's happening in Miami. And again, his book, y'all, is called The Book of Luke. The Book of Luke. It is here. You can go to my iPad. I want to put Luther Campbell, The Book of Luke: My Fight for Truth, Justice, and Liberty City. First of all, I read that book literally in 2 days. Now I'm telling you, amazing book. But he breaks it all down, understand in terms of what happens there in Miami. Folks also talking about what is shameful in this country. This story right here: 4 black 12-year-old girls in Binghamton, New York, were giddy and excited during lunch. 12-year-old, y'all. Okay. The school, though, didn't like that. Because these 4 black 12-year-olds were giddy, the school called the girls into the office and attempted to strip search all 4 of them because they assumed they were on drugs. According to the children, this is exactly what happened. Student A was made to remove her shirt, pants, and second layer of leggings. Then she was searched in her bra and underwear. Student B was made to remove her shirt and her outer pants. Searched in leggings and bra. Student C was made to remove her shirt and searched in her bra and pants. Student D was searched in her clothing. Received in-school suspension for refusing to remove her shirt and pants. Folks, this search was done by a school administrator and the school nurse. The school district released a statement outlining their policy, saying, quote, "A student may, under current law and policy, be searched in a school building by an administrator. These searches may involve an administrator requesting a student empty their pockets, remove their shoes, or remove their jackets." And the school district, in another part of its statement, seems to blame the trauma the students suffered on the students themselves for complaining. The parents of the 4 children released this statement, quote, "To those willing to hear us and see us, the past several days have been unexpectedly stressful and traumatic to our girls, to us as parents, and our collective families. Tuesday's school board meeting was our first chance to speak publicly on the events that brought us here, and we would sincerely like to thank all the community members who came out to extend their support. That support, as well as a need for clarity, is why we have decided to release this joint statement. On January 15th, our girls were strip searched by the nurse and administrators from East Middle School in the Binghamton City School District. The girls were individually taken to a private space in the health office and held for over an hour. They were subjected to sobriety tests and observations and told to remove their clothing to be searched for drugs and other illegal substances. 3 of our girls complied to the tests and observations, as well as the searches, and were then allowed to return to class. 1 of our girls complied to the test but refused to remove her clothing for the search and was sent to in-school suspension. We as parents did not consent to these searches. We as parents were not notified by the school before or after these searches occurred. Instead, our children informed us, and we had to follow up with the school the next day. All 4 girls missed several days of instruction after this experience, as they no longer feel safe at East Middle. During this time, school officials failed to communicate with us in any meaningful way and often failed to return our calls. It wasn't until the community attended the school board meeting that the administration began to express an interest in helping us transition the girls back into school. Up until this point, we have relied on intermediaries to advocate on our behalf and to get this information in the appropriate hands. Our first priority is and remains our daughters. Some of us attended and graduated from Binghamton schools before enrolling our own children. We know most of the teachers and staff at East Middle care about the safety and well-being of the students. Listening to our children recount and relive this trauma has been an experience we would not wish on any parent. And we hope no other child has to experience what they have endured. Once again, thank you to those willing to listen and to believe our girls.
So
So where are the
I got
lawyers?
a beautiful 12-year-old.
I mean,
Let me put this in perspective.
Give them a chance. They're coming.
They will be there.
Give it a week.
They will be there.
Give it a week.
But so I have a beautiful 12-year-old, Michaela, and when I saw the story, man, it hit home because they decided to say they were hyper and giddy. That's the reasoning for doing a strip search, as if 12-year-old girls that aren't together at lunch or recess or any other social scenario wouldn't be hyper and giddy. I mean, they didn't say erratic. You know, they didn't even say out of the norm. They said
They were hyper and giddy.
Just these are natural things in
Joe.
the space.
The district's going to get sued.
You
and
know,
sued
look,
big.
thank you. I mean,
Sued
look,
big.
I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of the comparisons. Look, omegas, alphas, sigmas, deltas, there are enough freaking lawyers in all of y'all's organization that you ought to be, you ought to be in, what is the little town in New York?
Binghamton.
I've been there. You know, beautiful mountains all around it.
Right.
Sue, you're unfiltered, right?
Yes.
Sue their asses off. That's we learned this from Johnny Cochran.
Right.
We've learned this from folk who, you sue them. And when you do that, then you take some of that money, you give to the parents, you give to the kids' scholarship fund, and then you use some of that money to train them dumbass teachers and administrators at that school to make sure this never happens again. Now, that's unfiltered.
Now, if they were smart, this district would settle. They would figure out a way to hand them a bunch of money with a big apology and a big production made out of it, talking about training and all that. They're not going to do that because
they're arrogant.
They're arrogant and stupid.
That's why you sue. First of all, to blame the trauma on the students.
I can't believe the story even happened. It's just I have a daughter too, and I just couldn't believe that would happen. Well, I would have been furious.
The reason I could believe it.
It happens every day.
The reason I could believe it. So I went to William Holland Middle School in Houston, and we were in the library one day, and all of a sudden it was a Latino brother and myself. So all of a sudden, the security guard calls us into the office in the library, and he says, I need the two of you to empty your pockets. And I go, for what?
Right.
He goes, well, the teacher said that one of you had really red eyes. Wow. Now, the Latino guy had really curly hair like I did. So the security guard was like, well, I don't know which one of them got the curly hair, so both of y'all come in. So we go in, and so we got to empty our pockets. And so I had a little paper that was rolled up. I said, don't even try it. Like, don't think that this is a sheet of paper for a joint.
Right.
So I get home. Now I got one of them old school daddies. So I get home, and I tell my dad what happened. My dad goes, what the hell you just say? He said, get the white pages. Okay, so for all y'all millennials, the white pages used to be like a big ass phone book that had phone numbers. This was before Google. Where you had to live with a big old, that was a yellow pages and a white pages. Yellow pages, trust me, it's in a museum somewhere. So
sat on it.
Precisely. So I bring him the white pages, and so he opens it up. So boom, he looks at the middle school. So he calls the middle school. And so he calls the office and said, I need to speak to Mr. Broussard. And so, who's calling? Tell him Reginald Martin is calling. And so Broussard gets on the phone. My dad recounts the story. My dad said, now let me be real clear. I fully expect. He goes, who the hell is your teacher? I said, Miss Hart, white woman. Right. He said, I fully expect that tomorrow Miss Hart is going to personally apologize to my son for thinking he on drugs. He said, not a single one of my damn kids on drugs. He said, now, if my son comes home tomorrow and arrives home by 3:45 and tells me this story, I will be in your office by 4 o'clock. I fully expect this to happen. And all I could hear was, okay, yes, Mr. Martin. Yes, Mr. Martin. I'm going to make sure that happens, Mr. Martin. And hung up. And that's exactly what happened the next day. And again, it's one of those things that, because first of all, I grew up next to the ship channel in Houston. Hell, my eyes were red my entire damn life, all the chemicals next to the plant. But the fact that they sit here, and to your point, they were giggling. Hell, if 12-year-old girls were not giggling, I would think something is wrong. Right. But this is literally where we are, where there is nothing that black folks can do, where white folks won't stop us. We can be barbecuing, we can be giggling, we can be parked in the crossway. I mean, it's like going to the pool, having dreadlocks, wrestling. I mean, to your point earlier, this is where I keep telling everybody, we are operating in this place where white folks are seeing their power erode. And it's like, oh, no. We gonna have to just exert our authority on y'all. That's really what is this dynamic that's going on here. This whole idea that there's something that's totally wrong with us at all times.
We talked about the Brookings Institute 2040. That shift that's happening, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they've become policy masters. And in this conversation, the policy is at issue. It's what gave them the opportunity to be able to do that.
Well, the whole historic premise, obviously, of having people who've historically treated you in a way that's obviously less than human, educating your children, of course, has been a huge challenge for African Americans in a way that is almost inescapable. We of course, ran our own schools, had our own teachers, etc., for a reason, and of course integration changed all that. And that question is a really difficult one for us to obviously confront. The school-to-prison pipeline, obviously, too, is a growing problem. The idea that this was treated as some sort of a prison, like this was Attica, you know, the way that you would have a strip search in a penitentiary, is just strange.
It's just nuts.
12-year-old girls.
Right.
Yes.
Wild horses wouldn't cut off his ass.
But please understand.
Final comment.
Please understand what they segregate. It's not segregating just color. They segregate power, resources, and responsibility.
Yep.
Right. That's what gets segregated. And now when you look at Congress, Elijah Cummings, Benny Thompson, Maxine Waters, a black president, all of a sudden, it's an entirely different world and culture, and people are just simply going to have to recondition the way they see us and think, and it's going to be a struggle. And as I said, on Martin Luther King Day, you honor the man, but after the day, you better live the message.
That's it.
There you go.
Folks, I got to laugh at this next story. So we've been covering the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute and their absolutely stupid decision to rescind an award for Angela Davis, the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth Award, which was going to be given to her next month. They announced in October she would get the award after various Jewish individuals and groups then complained because she supports the boycotting of Israel because of their treatment of Palestinians. They then rescinded the award. Then 3 board members resigned as a result of the blowback. Now the Civil Rights Institute has said, we've now decided to actually give Angela Davis the award.
You know why.
They also apologized again. They said hopefully they're waiting to find out if she is going to accept it. And also keep in mind she was coming to Birmingham anyway because an alternative group was still going to honor her. And so now they've
exposure. You know why? Your show, Tom's show. This is why we have to tell our own message.
Yes.
I did not see much of this on the networks. And I'll tell you the other thing is, every last person out there has a way of being their own journalist.
Yep.
This is powerful.
Right. Yes, it is. That's why you better keep it charged.
That's right.
All right, y'all. We got an update on the sentencing of former Chicago cop Jason Van Dyke. Remember, prosecutors, he could have been sentenced up to 96 years. Prosecutors wanted 18 to 20, but the judge gave him 81 months. Now, the black attorney general of Illinois, Kwame Raoul, y'all figured he was black. Kwame Raoul.
Just thinking out loud.
That's right. He is reviewing the sentence. Now, it is unusual for the attorney general to do such a thing, but the attorney general does have jurisdiction over all criminal cases in the state. We'll certainly let you know what happened. And I could not go today without this. All y'all this morning by 6 o'clock in the morning in Florida, all of a sudden you heard, Roger, FBI's here. bring your punk ass outside. 29 cops showed up in Fort Lauderdale to execute a warrant for the arrest of Roger Stone. Y'all know who he is, the racist thug asshole who's a good friend of Donald Trump, big-time campaign advisor, dirty trickster for the Richard Nixon campaign, and all around an absolutely awful asshole. Well, he got arrested, went to court, came out flashing his Nixon sign saying, oh, I'm not guilty at all, charged with lying, charged with making stuff up, and he's then going to have to come to Washington, D.C. to appear before a judge here. Now, the reason this is the thing, because why I can't stand his punk ass, because he's a racist. Roger Stone trashed me as well as Ana Navarro on Twitter. That's all the reason why he got banned by Twitter. He also was barred from ever going on CNN as a result of his comments about us. Here's Ana Navarro on The View this morning celebrating.
He got banned from Twitter for saying horrible, racist, offensive things about Don Lemon, about me, about Roland Martin. I am a happy person today, and let me just say what it says.
Now, he really is an awful, awful individual. And basically, he comes out and say, well, there was no corruption. But what Robert Mueller is really saying is that it was Roger Stone who was the conduit between WikiLeaks and them and the dumps. What they're putting together is a Trump campaign knowing in advance about the WikiLeaks dumps and actually helping to coordinate those dumps. Y'all, Lauren, it could not have happened to a better person than this racist.
There's so many things to take from this and just love and adore. My personal thing, because I have a bunch of cops in the family, is these Republicans who say they love cops until they watch cops doing their job this morning.
He's like, they were the Gestapo. They scared my wife. They scared my dogs.
It was too much. It was too harsh. When was the last
They
time
could have just called my attorney, and I would have turned myself in, Joe.
I'm just amazed when I heard the news that he had Richard Nixon's face tattooed on his back.
Did you just learn that?
Yes.
Oh, no, that's been for years. There was a story I read years ago where him and his wife were swingers.
Yeah.
And he talked about that. I mean, no, this is one of the most vile, and for the folks who don't know, this is also one of the most vile individuals who was a part of the 2000 Bush v. Gore shenanigans down in Florida. He is a dirty trickster from the mold of the folks who broke into the Watergate Hotel. He is despicable. Now, when he got banned, he gave some interview with somebody else where he offered an apology to me before his racist comments, and I said, kiss my ass with your apology. What did he say? Tell it to my face. No, because what he did was, he literally had all kind of nasty things to say about me and Ana Navarro and Don Lemon, and my deal is, I reject your apology if you don't give it to me personally. But that's the kind of person that he is.
But see, watch.
And Republicans have loved him.
He's trying to act like, oh, this is no big deal, and I can flash the Nixon sign as I come. Watch carefully. Watch carefully as this goes forward.
And this dude has been in multiple circles because his deal, Malik and Derek, in 2004, he was advising Al Sharpton when he ran for president. And I'm sitting there like, who the hell? Yes, no, in 2000, when Reverend Al Sharpton ran for president, Roger Stone was advising him.
So even as you talk about, today in the news reports, they even make it clear this is a different kind of animal that we're playing with. He's not Manafort. He's not Cohen. And he also made it clear, Trump's my guy. I'm going down with the ship.
And you're going to go down.
So we're going to see.
All right, you're going to go right down.
And he's hoping, he's like, I'm going to get a pardon. That's really what he's thinking. And then trying to pimp black people by saying, the only pardon I've been fighting for is one for Marcus Garvey. Take your pardon.
That was crazy.
Go ahead,
Joe. Not only, Trump's my guy, but then Trump has also said he's my guy.
Right.
I mean, you've got to understand, they are in this together. And somebody said, well, they didn't have this indictment in it and they didn't have that indictment in it. And please, people, recognize that you can add indictments at any point in time. So don't be fooled by all of this
These guys seem to think, Rudy Giuliani seems to think that somehow Bob Mueller hasn't figured out what they've figured out. I mean, it's just stupid. Watch what happens.
I'm loving it, and I'm telling y'all something right now. Trump loves talking about walls. Oh, there's some walls that are closing and then that are just getting narrower and narrower and narrower around Trump. Since you're in love with walls, about 30 people who know you are going to be in a joint with 4 walls and some bars. You got Manafort who loves suits. He's going to have an orange suit he's going to be wearing for the rest of his life.
And Humpty sat on the wall.
Right, and I just love all these punk asses who kept hollering, lock her up, lock her up. Right. And there's a whole lot of them getting locked up. Wow. That's called the Trump administration. Folks, we are done. First of all, why do we want you to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Not only for about this story, but also that Miami story, the strip search story. Let me be clear. There's no reason in the world all the rest of these networks out here who got all this damn money in 24 hours, why in the world they are not blowing up that strip search story and what happened to the kids in Miami. But y'all know the real deal because they look just like us. And so just when it comes to Benny College, just when it comes to other things that we do, we have got to fund our freedom, tell our own story, and not wait for somebody else to do it. So we want you to go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is very simple. To get 20,000 of our fans to support us with $50 over the course of a year. You can do it monthly. You can pay it at one time. Doesn't matter. Comes out to about 13 cents a day. That's what is required for us to be able to tell our own story. And so I would love to see several hundred of you actually between now and Sunday do this and actually complete this. Guys, did we have it queued up for our the scroll of all of our donors? Okay, cool. And so what we're about to do is all the folks who've given to our campaign, we're going to roll our video in just a second. Y'all can go ahead and roll it right now while I'm talking. They don't need to see me talking. And so we want you to go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Of course, next week, we, of course, will be talking about the shutdown and whether or not we're actually going to see a deal. We shall see. We'll also be broadcasting next week from several universities. I'm going to be on the road next week, next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so looking forward to being on the road broadcasting this show, so we can't wait. So again, right now go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, join the fan club. You can join this list as well. And I certainly want to thank Derek, want to thank Joe, want to thank Lauren, want to thank Malik, all for being here. And so we want you guys to have an absolutely great weekend. And if y'all want to do a happy dance for punk ass Roger Stone, be my guest as well. Because I got no problem.
Where's my name?
I got no problem. Well, first of all, you gotta get to the J's.
Okay. Oh,
Your damn name is Joe. We on the D's.
Oh man, you'll be up there by the time.
No, we not. And hold up, I ain't see Derek Holly. Omega still ain't giving. Still ain't giving. Still ain't giving. I don't know what. So all y'all Omegas out there, I need y'all to get a Benny College because y'all slow as hell, as usual. All right, let me see if my man Keenan updated this. Let me see if you go see Joe Madison name.
Wait a minute, that's about as fast as Image Awards go.
We go. Hold on. Let's see if we see Joe. All right, come on to the eyes. All right, now we're in the J's. Well, we gotta make sure we gave you credit now.
Well, that's all right.
Cause somebody gonna get kicked. Somebody gonna get cussed out if J.O.E. not showing up on here. So all right, Joe. Oh, hey, Keenan. What happened to Joe Madison? You didn't put it on here.
Joseph Mayfield.
No, it ain't Joseph Mayfield. What the hell you laughing for, Derek? Your name ain't on there. But you're right. Joe gave his money on the air.
Yeah, I gave you $100 bill.
Hey, Keenan, what the hell you doing?
You put that in your pocket, didn't you?
No, I didn't. That money went to the bank. All right, y'all, we got to go. I hope y'all have an absolute great weekend. Again, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com right now. We still on the L. We gonna share everybody else.
There we go.
We got Malik. What's up, Malik boy? He there. All right, y'all have a great one. Holla.
Welcome back to Works.